go for it.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'll call the meeting to order at 1 o'clock. And let's roll right into roll call.
Right. Thanks, Chair Mitchell. Vice Chair Nelsestion.
Here.
Ooh, my Trustee Showalter.
Here.
Trustee Hall is excused. Trustee Larios is excused, and Chair Mitchell.
Here.
We have quorum.
Okay, let's go ahead and move to the consent agenda. And we have the meeting minutes from February 4th. I'm presuming everyone had a chance to review those.
Looks good. I move to approve the minutes.
Thank you. And a second?
I'll second.
Any additional questions or changes? Okay, seeing none. Secretary Source, could you take a roll call for us for vote?
Yeah. Vice Chair Nelsestion.
Aye.
Trustee Showalter.
Aye.
And Chair Mitchell.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Great, thank you. Okay, so we are moving on to our first action item, speeding right through the agenda as usual. Update to the committee name to include athletics.
Awesome. Luann, do you have capacity to share screen? And if not, I'm happy to get that open.
Sure. Do you want me to share the docket?
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
Give me just a moment. All right. Can everyone see?
Yes, thank you. So folks, for this action item, we were hoping to have a conversation about updating our committee name to reflect that athletics is part of our committee now. One of the suggestions that we had, for example, we have a couple of examples here. So athletics, academic and student affairs committee, or academic, student affairs and athletics committee. Open to other suggestions, but we just wanted to make sure that it's clearly communicated through the name of our committee, as well as when we update our charter, that athletics is included within this subcommittee's jurisdiction and oversight. So do folks have particular opinions? Do they have other ideas they want us to do a little research on, or what's the committee's thoughts here?
I love longer acronyms. Just add more letters on. I prefer, and thank you for populating with ideas. I prefer the second to the first. And I do wonder, by putting the and between academic and student affairs, are we saying it's academic affairs and student affairs, right? Otherwise, it would be a comma, academic, comma, student affairs, and athletics. So I that's my only question about that second option.
Good point.
I also prefer, oh, sorry, Tina, go ahead. No, okay. I prefer the second one as well. And I had a similar question, like, is there a problem with making it like academics, athletics, and student affairs?
Yeah, no, I think that's totally okay. And the president had suggested in the chat, academic, student, and athletic affairs committee.
Yeah, I do like I'm just like thinking about some of the the ways that people seem to get like their feathers ruffled a little bit when we talk a lot about athletics. So I would hesitate to put it first just to like help us avoid a conversation that was suggesting that we're creating some sort of like hierarchy of what comes first. But other than that, I have no preference.
Yeah.
So
Well-
Evan, did you capture that, our final suggestion from the committee?
So is the final suggestion, I heard that we want to move athletics, back. So are we comfortable with, do we like the second one there with, or I mean, with the commas, so academic, student and athletic affairs committee, or academics, student affairs and athletics committee? Sorry.
I think the affairs at the end that they're all related to affairs is what I
Okay.
would go for.
Same. So the one that Dr. Peters put in the chat would be my
Mhm.
preference.
Great.
Go Dr. Peters. All right, and Secretary Source, do we need a vote on this, or
I
is
think
this?
to be really clear, we probably should, because it does change the name and will require us to update the charter. So I would love a motion if,
Okay, could I ask for a motion from the group? I cannot see everyone in my view, so
Oh,
my
let me-
apologies.
I move to change the name of our committee to academic, student, athletics, and athletic affairs committee.
Quite a mouthful. Good job.
But
Thank
it still
you.
says ASAC. It's still the same acronym, the way you pronounce it.
Great point. And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. And any additional questions? Okay, seeing none, then Secretary Source, could you take a call
Yeah.
for vote?
Yes, Vice Chair Nelsestian,
Aye.
Trustee Showalter,
Aye.
and Chair Mitchell.
Aye. Okay,
Motion
so
passes.
motion approves.
Wonderful, thank you.
Thank you so much. Okay, so now we will go into the discussion items, and we'll start by having a presentation on campus recreation.
Wonderful. Is it okay if I share?
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, Rip, we're having a hard time hearing you, just so you know. It sounds like you're like in a tunnel.
And how's that?
A little better. If you can do a little better.
And we'll try one more.
Can hear you.
Okay. Sorry, laptop options with 3 different options. Sometimes it's confusing. Just requesting to share.
Oh. Let me give you that.
Thank you.
How do we do that here?
Appreciate that. Thank you all very
Oh,
much.
oh. Let's see. There we go.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Well, thank you all for allowing me to be here today to provide you information about campus recreation. To the Academic, Student, and Athletics Affair Committee, I apologize about the error on the title. I will work diligently to get it there. My name is Rip Horsey. My pronouns are he, him, his, and I work within the campus recreation department. The flow of today's presentation is pretty much the impact, facilities and programs, and engagements. Campus recreation provides active opportunities to enhance the student experience and cultivate a community of supportive relationships, which is our mission. Campus recreation has many benefits, but here at WOU, we focus on 4 areas. Healthy behaviors, which are opportunities for reducing stress and promoting well-being. Social engagement, a sense of belonging that's basically naturally with our spaces that we can provide. Campus connection, being comfortable with the clubs, intramural sports, and programs that we offer to bring people out. And professional development, skills outside of the classroom, we hope our employers are looking for. You know, prior to the spring of 2011, campus recreation was only the stadium weight room, grass fields, and the old PE gym space. And then fortunately with the student referendum, we were able to open our doors in 2011 to the Peter Courtney Health and Wellness Center. It's a facility that has a gold LEED certification, which is leadership in energy and environmental design. In that facility, we've been able to, the items that you have listed there are the spaces that we can provide and do different things for everyone just to come in and use. So you're looking at a 6,000 square foot cardio weight room area, multiple courts downstairs, indoor track, a lot of things that people can come just be part of that building. But within the building, we also have our Health and Wellness Center programs. We do a number of activities and collaborations throughout the year for students and the area community. Climbing is our mainstay there. We not only offer orientations of skills for belay and lead, we do actual like national certifications, and also we run academic classes out of there for our climbing class. We have our outdoor trips, our equipment rentals, and also national certifications that we run so we can do different things for our outdoor program. We have our fitness opportunities. And also, we always enjoy our collaborations with Veterans Resource Center and Stitch Closet to do outdoor 5K runs on campus, normally in fall and spring, because they take absolutely no time to plan or do or are weather dependent. Our aquatic center also runs activities and collaborations for the students in the area community. Our youth swim lesson programs, we run national certification courses, which provide employment opportunities for students, not only here, but also in the state and outside. We have our club sports swim program. And in the last couple of terms, our intramural sports, we run our human battleship tournament and also our water volleyball tournament as well, just to kind of give people some activities and everything else outside of lap swimming and open swim. But the Aquatic Center has been a mainstay since 1954 with Western. We just upgraded it in the 2011 build with Peter Courtney Health and Wellness Center. Intramural sports, we provide those social connections with folks who enjoy getting out, playing sports, tournaments, and student clubs, offering different meeting opportunities. You may have seen the email from Associate Director Andy Main regarding the free college football and March Madness bracket challenge. It's just a fun way that we can go out and enjoy something virtually, sitting at our desk. And question for everybody, how did your bracket end up last night? Just checking.
I was third.
Cougars,
I was third.
Okay. I was way down, but the Cougars, they still had going for it, but it's okay. It was a positive. So one of the keys that we've always learned is with our new student week coming in, we have our students on campus doing so much activity. One of our big promotionary things that we do is our back to school games, because by week 2, we need something else to go on. We need things to keep going with. And also it's just a positive that we can kind of go. Next is our club sport programs. Currently we have 12 chartered clubs. They do a number of campus collaborations and they work constantly to fundraise for their programs. Our rugby and lacrosse programs have been actively recruiting students for a number of years, which has helped in their student success. We'll also find that we have some wonderful people around to provide us some volunteer time and efforts to keep all those programs moving as well as they can. And if you've been to any of our football games and basketball games, we also want to shout out a little bit to our dance club, who consistently shows up and tries to do the performance. And those are all student led designs and choreography. So we're proud of them. Next, we work into our turf field. It is 13 years old. It's the home field for the clubs and intramural sports program. We have invested a lot into that field with regarding to like digital media experience for our student employment to provide individuals so we can do the live streaming and the commentary. And depending on which match you're watching, if it happens to be rugby, we want to take a moment to thank Chip and Neil for their time and love of rugby matches. They make the commentary not only enjoyable, funny at times, but they also educate you on what rugby goes with. If you've never tuned in, please do. It takes you right to New Zealand, Australia, and you feel like you're right there at a rugby match. So wonderful things, and they do it for the love of rugby and just for the love they have right now and the improvements they have for WOU rugby. We also want to make sure that we note that we host the Rugby Oregon Championships for high school rugby organizations, but we also work with a lot of high school lacrosse programs throughout our area that provide opportunities for those students to play championship matches or other matches on our field. So one of the things we want to say this year as our engagement with students is we've been able to see over 1,800 unique students. It's actually 1,816, but that's okay because I checked today and this I had to turn in last week. So our percentage, even though it says 55.1%, it's 55.57%. So we're working our very best. The key that we have to say here is there's a definite increase in our student usage for unique students. We're just starting spring term and we're about to eclipse last year's unique usage. So again, trying to offer different opportunities for people to come in as students to visit, do different things throughout the facility, try to keep them engaged, regardless if they just find it as health or fitness. It's also just a place for socialization and engagements. And a sense of belonging that we just keep trying to do and trying to bring in throughout the rest of the year. And those were the last 2 years. If I put up the COVID year, pre-COVID years, they're a little bit longer. We're still kind of working through trying to get people to engage themselves socially and try to get out of the walls they have in their own home or residence halls, and also that technology thing in front of them. Next, a little bit with the engagement. With the funding enhancements provided us with the IFC Student Committee last year to this year, we have made some solid impacts in our aquatic center. We've been able to open and extensively a number more hours than we've had, and we're looking at relatively from our fall to winter about 13 people walking through the door. Now we're almost at 22. Actually, the numbers increased. We're trying to keep that tally going. It's just throughout the day. And it's an amazing thing. That's what we want to keep seeing. And these are our students, faculty, staff, and also our area community. So the more hours you can open a facility up, the more convenient it is, the more people can get in the door. Now, this doesn't include our swimming lesson program or other activities that we're doing within there. It's just trying to get through the best way we can. We are open 7 days a week now, and we consistently look like we're going to be able to do that all the way through next academic year as well. The climbing wall, again, 1,423 participants. And again, we're only starting spring term. So that's an amazing thing. Return on our investment, return of users is an important thing. Intramural sports, again, you'll see about 288 unique students. Then also in our club sport program, about 268 unique students. Those are individuals who collectively try to find what they like on campus and are able to do. And these are the major things that we're looking at of improving. You'll see in club sports, we've only got 65 matches and games this year. These are just student clubs, and we still have more to go, which is a very important part. I wanted to take a moment to provide you with some information on the campus recreation's ongoing effort to secure funding and approval to resurface the aging turf. 13 years of age, most turf fields lifelines are 8 to 10. So we have really tried to push the best way we can with what we have. Well, currently, we have a petition into WOU, and it was approved to move forward. And we've submitted a legislative project for an F-bond request. And again, those are all steps that are in this whole process. Mr. Source and also Vice President of Financial Affairs, KB, and others have been so gracious in trying to help us, guide us, and kind of push to those limits of getting through all the requirements of that. We also have to obtain 10% of the student body signatures to place the referendum on the spring term ballot. As you know, to get students to, collectively get together, it's sometimes challenging, but as of right now, until 5 p.m. on Thursday, we are out of the 358 student signatures, we need about 96 more signatures to reach the ballot. So we're doing everything we possibly can. We're not trying to hound people. We're just trying to give them, have they heard of this initiative for putting it on the ballot, and try our very best. And we hope we'll be able to see it at that point, and then it goes out to a student referendum, and we'll see if we can obtain the funding for it. So the turf field itself would just be resurfacing and applying some safety measures to it. The cost of it at this present time was 1.4 million, and that's just for the campus recreation, that turf field. The next step, just want to circle back about our club sport program and also the turf field, because they are linked completely. In 13 years, we've invested over $380,000 into a turf field. That is through labor, maintenance, repairs, upgrades, everything that you can possibly think. A turf field, as much as you want to think it is grass, isn't. It's like carpet. You have to vacuum it, clean it, fluff it, do all sorts of things to it. You have to keep everything off of it. You would be surprised after a weekend what kind of things we collect on top of it, and we have to go out and get that taken care of, restrooms, other things. But we're proud to have been able to do it because those have given us some of the successes that we've had. We've, as you can kind of see, driven numerous miles in a circle or a circular pattern to try to keep the compaction factor of the turf as low as possible, so it maintained playability. That's designed to reduce the opportunities of concussions on it and everything else. You'll see in club sports programs, we've had 854 unique students that have played those outdoor sports, specifically on the turf. Not all club sports, just the ones playing out there. And I do want to say this as kind of one of those proud moments that you don't always get to say, that we have a slight addition to the club sports regional nationals. We are no longer left at 12. We are moving ourselves to 13. So not only are we moving having our women's rugby team playing at Boyd's, Maryland, again on their back-to-back national appearance. Our men's lacrosse program over spring break and others has secured themselves a second place into our region and will be playing in Hermiston, Oregon for the same weekend that we are in nationals. So Associate Director Andy Main is split on so many ways of everything that he's going to do, and not only as travel paperwork and also he'll be in Boyd's, Maryland. It's an amazing weekend. We're so happy and proud to have our lacrosse program be able to do that. They had to go on their spring break trip and they had to play a host of non-league games. And I think they accomplished, what was it? I think it was 5 or 6 games in 9 days. So it was a pretty amazing time. So one little last thing, want to take a look at the turf field. I know you're not always out there. You know, if you see it, it always looks really nice and pretty because it's green, and it is. But one of the things that occurred earlier in this year is someone decided to go out and continually kick penalty kick all the way down to the very base fibers of the turf field. So we had to cut out a section, and we replaced it with the original turf and put it in the same spot with the same stuff. And as you can kind of see, we've lost about an inch worth of actual fiber height. It's not fibers. Those fibers are still there. They're just curled because of the use and everything else. So we are to a point where how turf fields work is the rubber is in compaction, slides up and down those fibers to give you that feel of natural grass. So we're kind of to the point where we don't have much more height to go off. Just wanted to provide you that visualization. Most people are like, hey, it looks really good out here. It still is. It's playable. It's just hard. But it's workable. It just is. There's not much more room that we can keep going with some of the rubber that if we keep adding more. And I'll get off the turf. I apologize. I just wanted everybody to understand. Just pass it along. And pretty close to almost my final slide. Is I just wanted to do a tremendous shout out to our student professionals. Their employment is a true test of what they do. They're committed every day to come in and make sure that people are safe and secure. And at the same time, know that that may not occur and they have to take care of people and do safety steps for emergencies and oversight. We also are proud of the fact that we have growth opportunities with 23 different positions throughout our department that allow individuals and our staff, we ask to cross-train, to get out of their comfort zones, to move out of what they are familiar with so they can learn those skills, those transformative skills that hopefully employers are exactly looking for, that they took the step to actually educate themselves to do the professional development. And last but not least, I want to thank you so much for your support and look forward to any of future conversations we may have. And I'll stop you.
Thank you so much. That was a great presentation. I'll open it up for our board members. Do you have any questions?
Sure, if I may, Leah.
Absolutely.
Rip, thank you so much. First of all, you make beautiful slides. I don't know if you made them, but those are awesome. And I really appreciate all the specifics, like the numbers are really helpful to see along with some of those photos that illustrate those numbers. So thank you for all that. I also, having been involved in a local turf battle, to very much understand what the need. And I know from revisiting our charter for today, part of this committee is about student safety. And that is the reason that turf fields need to be replaced, right? Is because of safety concerns. So thank you for pursuing that. I know it's not easy. I think my only question, and this is maybe just for future, right, is the other thing I want to say is when we went on the tour last at the retreat, we spent like lots more time than we were supposed to in that beautiful building because it's fantastic. I think I'm always curious about what's behind the numbers and like who the people are that aren't accessing any of the services and what the barriers are. So I don't know if you have a general comment about that today, but it just is, again, what are we doing to investigate that question? And not that everyone should be doing all of these things on your slides, but what do we know about that? So again, I'm not looking for a specific answer, but if you have any thoughts about it.
No, that's a wonderful point. And if you look at our statistics, our statistics are based off of the 4th week enrollment in fall. They combine both, it's our undergraduate number. But that doesn't actually represent that, even though it said 3,384, I do believe this year in fall 2024. Right now, there's only 2,600 that actually are on campus on Monmouth. So you look at relatively with that number, and your 735 who are graduate, that plays into the scope of overall, we're saying 1,800 people have walked through the door uniquely because we can track them as they come through. So yes, we've always consistently, ever since we've opened this facility, for the first decade almost, we held almost 80% unique usage. And that was a powerhouse on campus, on place, on Monmouth location. So to answer your question, it's a little bit of difference because of more of a little bit off, but many of those individuals who may be listed as online or WOU Salem all still pay IFC fees. They're all part of the student body. There just may be a difference of their location to be able to come in. And a lot of times that we've asked of students, we get the same answers that most people get the same thing. Too busy. The hours are inconvenient. The programs aren't exactly what I want. And I really don't feel comfortable in that type of space. I wish we could do more for all of those things. And we will continually keep trying to.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I would add, this year, because of IFC last year, they expanded their hours back. Before this year, they were opening during the 8 o'clock hour, so it was just really difficult if you had an 8 a.m. class to go work out in the mornings, right? And so now it's back open during the 6 o'clock hour, and I think that's consistent with why you're seeing a big increase in the amount of folks coming in, is that the time then and then the time on the weekend has expanded. And so we have a lot more flexibility in our hours at the rec center.
Any additional questions or comments? I see Vice President Fuchs.
Thank you, Chair Mitchell. Here, Rip, I had a question about the revenue for the turf field. I think on your slide you noted 68,000. Maybe I don't remember the exact number. Those revenues are generated by outside groups, correct? Or competitive games? I mean, I'm just curious what those dollars come from. And I should know this as an IFC advisor, but I don't, so I apologize.
It is absolutely okay. The majority of that revenue has actually only been incurred over these past 4.5 years. In the beginning of our existence, we did not try to rent out the turf field to outside entities very much, simply because we were trying our very best. We had funding to be able to do that. But yes, we do. When athletics is out there and they're creating a revenue generating camp, they provide us funds for the cost to use the field. We often see what is called Oregon Youth Ultimate. We've been in a great relationship with them for the last couple of years. It provides them a wonderful place to play, very steady, and it keeps it so they don't miss out on practices because everything gets wet. We've also run into different things with, last year was the United States Rugby Youth under 18 women's came out and spent a week with us on the turf. And these are the folks that you're going to see in the Olympics later on. And so it's a pretty impactful kind of thing. So yes, our revenue has definitely increased over the number of years in the last 4 or 5 of outside groups. But one of the factors that we've done with those to build the revenue, we've also tried to make sure if there's any way possible to connect it to a recruitment event where we can actually have an admissions counselor out there, and tents our coaches handing out stuff, trying to do things to again, promote WOU, promote those high school students from coming in. Many of our high school matches that we do run with lacrosse and rugbies do come here, but those coaches are tied to us because they're alumni with us. And so, yes, we ask them to pay to use the field. We try not to give it for free. And that's another aspect of kind of the revenue. So you're absolutely right. Those competitions, other things to compensate us, but we really didn't try to do an over the amount. That's why it's so low. And you're right, around 68, 69,000 for that duration of time.
Thank you.
Any additional questions, comments? Okay, Rip, I have one for you. Thank you very much, first of all, for the great presentation. I learned quite a bit and really enjoyed visiting the facility during our board retreat. Wondering if you could tell us a little bit about the referendum, putting something on the ballot. Has this been the first time that we've attempted to do that, and maybe a little bit about the process?
Sure, I will give a kind of a smaller, and then I will hopefully Evan Source will step in and kind of fill in the more detail. But the last time that Campus Recreation asked for a turf or a referendum was like I mentioned, was the 2009, 2010 for the Peter Courtney Health and Wellness Center. The next one was for the turf field itself to have it built in 2011, 2012. Since then, we've asked for no additional referendums or increases than that. And the only reason we're coming back to ask now is simply because of the cost to replace the turf itself. We're not going to change the infrastructure or anything of the lights, but that's where we're at. And if it's okay, I'm going to pause for a second because I know the information, but I would prefer if Evan would provide a little bit more.
Yeah, so thanks, Rip. In addition to that, so we have an ask to the legislature for Article F bonds to help us build a replacement field. And Article F bonds are essentially a low cost, low interest loan. And so the idea of what we're trying to do is leverage the money that would be generated from the referendum, from the student body saying, yes, we consent to you charging us an additional amount of money, will be a pot of money that we would generate to help us pay off the bonds that we're asking the legislature to issue us. And so it's not going to be part of that prioritized capital list that you've heard me talk about, where we have our data center and our music and arts. It's a separate pot of money that's basically low interest loans from the state to help entities with these capital costs. And so I think, Rip, what we're asking the students essentially is an increase of $15. Is that right?
$10 per term per
$10.
student.
Yeah. So I saw people tabling out at the student union this week already, and very excited folks talking about what they're going to do with the field, and hopefully it all works out.
And how long does that referendum, how long does that last, that it's $10 a term?
At the present time, we've amortized the cost of the field to hopefully by the end of 12 years, when we're kind of where we are, because we made it to 13. So if we make it to 12 and we do some limitations on things, and we know that there will be funding at that point, we feel that we will not have to go back and ask again and keep the same, because the fee stays steady unless there's a student basically actions that go in to remove that fee, would just continually stay. And we would use that to leverage at that point, hopefully the same kind of cost to go in and do that. And as we all positively know that our enrollment's going to slightly keep going up, with fingers crossed. And that means that again helps us as we build to that point, and we won't have to hopefully ask again, but it will just stay as inconsistent until a student action would remove it.
And if I may, Chair Mitchell, it's important to note that this is just for this campus rec field. So we also have a capital, part of our capital campaign is a field for our soccer teams.
Mhm.
That's a separate project. Currently, of course, they're using the campus rec fields when they need to, but in an ideal world, through the foundation and through fundraising through the athletics, and maybe, some support from the legislature will secure funding for athletic field, and that would take some of the pressure off of campus rec as well. One of the statistics that Rip shared with me that I didn't hear him share here is roughly 14 hours. Is that right, Rip? 14 hours a day during school year, that field is used by our students, whether that's athletics, student clubs, et cetera, et cetera. So it's one of the busiest parts of our campus.
Wow. Yeah, it's incredible. All right. Well, I think that's it, Rip. Thank you so much for that presentation. It's wonderful. I really appreciate it.
Thank you
We'll
all.
go
and
ahead.
Enjoy.
Thank you.
Thanks, Rip.
Okay, we will go ahead and roll into our division updates, and Provost Cole, I think we'll start with you.
Perfect. Good afternoon. Some updates in regards to academic affairs and things kind of occurring nationally that we're keeping an eye on. Just want to make sure that you're aware that our international office is monitoring the ongoing conversations and actions by the executive branch and how it impacts our international students. We are meeting, actually we met today with our legal counsel to put things in place to support our international students if they come in a situation where a student is or loses their student visa. So far, we have not had any student at Western lose their international student visa, but we are monitoring the situation and putting things into place. We have been advising students, obviously, not to travel abroad because the likelihood that you're going to be able to come back into the country are slim. We're also monitoring impacts to some of our grants. The Supreme Court did proceed and support the executive branch decision of pausing funding to teacher education grants. So we're right now waiting to see how it impacts our specific bilingual teacher education grant that we have at Western. And we hope to have that finalized by next week. As of last week, what we had heard from the Department of Education was technically that the office that supported that specific grant was completely closed. They pretty much fired everyone from that specific office, but the dollars were still available to us. But that was before the Supreme Court decided to proceed and support the executive branch decision that they had the right to also freeze funding for that grant. So we're kind of waiting, and since nobody in DOE is currently working in that specific office, we're kind of in limbo, and we're waiting to see what the impact is to Western. And that's a significant grant for the College of Education and our bilingual teachers pathway program that has existed at that college for a while, and faculty are very engaged in that project. We're also monitoring enrollment trends and application trends. Our applications are up by 26%. Our admitted student numbers are up by 25%. A lot of it has to do with that we went ahead and developed a common app. So we would see an increased number of applications. Typically, when you are in your first year of your common app, you see an increase in applications, but you don't see the same level of yield. We're really excited some of the things that Admission is doing right now in partnership with the rest of the university, which is a very proactive campaign to engage students who have declared Western as an institution of interest. So I think that is one element why we are seeing also a uptick in the number of students. Well, it's kind of hard to say uptick because we've never had this before, so it's hard to measure it. But we've seen an increase of prospective students who've already submitted their fees, admitted student fees or admissions fees. And that's a great way for us to measure potentially what could occur in the fall. I'm happy with flat enrollment, but of course, we're always looking for increased enrollments. And our team in student admissions and in student affairs in collaboration are doing a remarkable job, as well as financial aid in reaching out to students with their packet. For me right now, that's a bulk of the work that we're trying to do in academic affairs, besides obviously the ongoing conversation of aligning our budget to and our resources and support our faculty and curriculum. I did send out an email just a couple hours ago to our university, letting them know that we will proceed with the allocations that division chairs had requested. It is more than what we had budgeted for, but it gives us at least a ramp, a year to work together to reevaluate our entire curriculum, reevaluate our general education model, and hopefully in a shared governance way come to a meaningful resolution of how we develop a sustainable path for Western Oregon University. So I look forward to working with Faculty Senate and faculty across the university as we move forward. In good news, we had a very successful search for a dean for the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences. We made an offer, they've accepted. We're finalizing some of the small details in their contract already. And communication is working with the candidate to create a profile so we can send out a message community-wide of who the candidate is. Their start date is June 30th. So we're really excited. And right now it looks for the College of Education. We have some really strong candidates, and they should be on campus here in the very near future. And we're hoping to have 3 or 4 finalists be on campus in the next month or two. I just did a big dump, but a lot of it is on my report as well. Any questions?
That's great. Any questions from my colleagues? Yes.
Anybody?
That to me.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
Sorry.
Sorry. I had a couple of questions, and was the reduction in graduate assistant positions from the first page of your report. And I was wondering, is that a reduction? Is that going to impact our graduate enrollment? Is that tied to students' ability to come and actually be in those programs? Can you explain that just a little bit?
Yeah, I appreciate that question. It should not impact our enrollment for graduate students. We've actually never used our GA positions as a recruiting tool. We typically give GA positions after the student has already committed to the university and is here. The other thing that we've noticed after I started looking at our budget holistically and looking at how we've been actuals, not what we budget, but our actuals, is that we've never really actually overspent our budget allocation for GA positions. And therefore we had an opportunity to do some cost savings. If we were actually using those dollars to recruit graduate students, and then I would have been a little bit more hesitant, but that has not been the case in academic affairs. So we do not see where it would impact directly enrollment to our programs.
So there still will be some, it will just be a lower number offered?
Yeah, it actually, I was just putting something together. I think we decreased it by approximately 300, or I think it was like $300,000 is what we decreased it, if I recall.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. And then I have 2 more questions, if that's okay. The other
Yeah.
one was around the Dean of Graduate Studies and Sponsored Research. Can you clarify just like what is the workflow for that? I mean, I think my question is mostly in light of a lot of the stuff that's going on federally and the difficulty in navigating the grant process. What does that workflow look like for faculty who have grants or who want to do grants without that position filled?
Yeah. This shouldn't impact faculty. In fact, when Brianne was in that position, we created another layer, which is a director for sponsored research. So the director of sponsored research was Amber Plum, is still currently there and continues to work closely with faculty in the foundation and the budget office. We still have, at least for a while, a contract with McAllister and Quinn that helps faculty navigate some of the federal grants specifically. So technically what we ended up doing is reevaluating the structure of academic affairs and where there are opportunities for reevaluating administrative expenditures. And given a university of our size with less than 4,000 students, it just really didn't make, for me personally, a whole lot of sense to refill a dean of graduate studies and sponsored research. Sponsored research makes less than really 7% of our total budget. And that's combining what is generated from the foundation and sponsored research. So it's probably even less than 7%. And when you look at the flow of graduate students, and particularly most of that work is already happening at the department level, not really in the office of a graduate dean's level. But we still do have someone that is monitoring the graduate students. So Amber Dietz, I've got two Ambers, one in sponsored research and one in graduate studies. So Amber Dietz is still engaged directly with students, making sure that they are meeting their objectives and timeline to graduation, and working directly with departments. Now, one of the moves that we also incorporated in eliminating the dean's position is that I moved Amber Dietz, the graduate office, under enrollment management. So that way we combine the marketing efforts and align our goals of securing and increasing overall enrollment to Western Oregon University. We had it separated and we treated it like two separate buckets. So what we ended up doing is actually merging the two.
Great, thank you for that.
Yeah.
I have one other question, and I'll also say that I have class at 2:00 and I need to run after that. But my last question was on the instructional faculty allocations. We got our allocations today, and then the follow-up message for that. I think it's less of a question and just to kind of relay some of the feel that I'm getting among faculty, which is that we're going to go through another year like this one, and we've gone through several in the past couple of years where we're sort of unsure what our faculty is going to look like year to year, unsure if we're going to be facing cuts, cuts again, cuts again, cuts again. And it's been a rather difficult process to undergo year to year for our tenured faculty in charge of making some of these decisions for our departments and for our instructional faculty who are unsure if they're going to be employed year to year. And so just while we appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the discussion and to and to be a part of the decision-making process about, program curtailment and other things that I assume are going to be a part of this decision. The idea that we're going to be going through this whole cycle again next year, unsure of who could possibly be employed in our department, is one that is very much weighing on our faculty. And so it's a both and. Like, yes, we're very happy to have a slower process, but I just also want to relay the real trauma that has gone on in our faculty in the last, in the couple years before you got here with the Article 15 process, and that continuing year to year to year, that is really impacting the morale of our faculty. And I'll also say that when I was coming onto my board position, that was one thing that I was hopeful to be able to make some inroads in, because it has been such a demoralizing process that just to relay the seriousness with which that trauma is being felt among our faculty at every level. So looking forward to that again next year is a rough.
It is rough. It is rough. And yeah, I wish there was a better mechanism. I wish there was a way that we could stop time and address the woes of WOU and the woes of WOU, I guess. And really, but there's no way for us to stop time, right? We still have to educate our students. We still have to do service. We still have to function as an institution. And unfortunately, our expenditures continue to exceed our revenues. And that's a very difficult position for a university, a regional university, I think. And I think it's not just Western. Unfortunately, so many of our public universities in the state of Oregon are facing this similar dilemma, some much greater, right? Some are exceeding $18 million deficits. And I think it's, if we could use this ramp and this year to really work together to figure out what is that appropriate allocation and realign our curriculum to support the revenue that's actually coming in, I think we can do a lot of mitigation and hopefully minimize some of the long-term trauma that has existed at Western. So I look forward to working with faculty and faculty senate and the new deans. I'm really excited about having new deans in these positions as well that are bringing in outside perspectives of ways that we can work together to reevaluate our curriculum offerings, as well as making sure that our students have the educational needs and outcomes that we expect.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm going to run to class. But
Thank you.
Thanks.
Any additional questions or comments?
If I may just briefly, I really want to thank you for starting with the international students and the wraparound, at least legal support. And I'm assuming that there are also mental health supports, housing supports, thinking through those, not only for international students, but those whose personal selves and their families are impacted by deportation or threat of deportation. So I can only imagine the increased supports around those students, and just want to thank all of you and all of those doing that work, as well as navigating things like tremendous budget uncertainty. And I think that's enough.
Thank you. I see Dr. Peters.
Yeah, I have to go to a 2 o'clock meeting, but I just want to kind of reinforce what Jose said in his report, and also the answer to Trustee Showalter's questions, just so that the other trustees are aware. I think this notion of uncertainty is hard to stop. I mean, Jose's right, and it's not just faculty. I want that to be clear as well. People all across this university experience this uncertainty going forward because our expenses are greater than our revenues at the moment, and we have to go through a process to reset this. And even that is no guarantee. I mean, we can reset it and get it pretty dialed in for a few years, and we don't know what the future will hold. So I'm certainly not trying to dismiss those worries and those stresses that the faculty are experiencing with uncertainty. But Jose's right. I mean, this is happening all over Oregon. It's happening all over the nation. It's not just happening in higher education. And it's probably exacerbated because of the federal landscape. It has an even harder reality of uncertainty that we haven't even really talked about out loud a lot, but the loss of lots of incoming federal dollars could have very negative impacts on our employees. So anyway, I appreciate the work Jose, Tina, Randy are doing in their areas, trying to mitigate the trauma going forward. But it's real, and we'll be talking about it today, I'm sure, at our town hall on the budget. But thanks for entering into the conversation, and trustees, thank you for asking good questions about it and going forward. So thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Peters. Incredibly difficult. Provost Cole, do you have any insights into the grants and the freezed funding to teacher education? And is there discussion among regionals or universities about next steps if this is just done? Or
there's wishful thinking in the state. I guess that's the best way to put it. The state has, and Evan approached me yesterday about this. The state is requesting for us to gather how much federal dollars are coming directly to a university, to then potentially lobby the governor's office as a way of a stopgap. That's wishful thinking, right? We're in a state that technically our legislators and the governor is not really supporting higher education what it should be already, let alone if the feds decide to actually pull out. And Western is a small percent of federal funding. When you look at OHSU and you look at U of O and OSU, any of those institutions, you're looking at almost a $5 million loss on a daily basis, given the size of their federal indirect costs. So it's just not even possible to evaluate that. I think what we are doing at the moment is getting a better handle of one, how quickly can we index and secure a reimbursement for our grants. So if we have dollars sitting out there that we have not invoiced, we should. So our new VPFA and I are working very closely with sponsor research. As of today, we have over $2 million that we have not invoiced in grants, either the state or the federal side. And it partly is we just don't have systems in place at Western to be able to invoice in a expedient way. Everything is so manually operated. So KB and I have been trying to work on figuring out a way that we can expedite some of these invoices. The more money we leave out there, the higher the risk that we won't get it. And more importantly, it's cash that's not currently in our index at the university and potentially earning interest. So that's something that we're monitoring and trying to figure out how to best move forward. And the other one is to evaluate from a cash flow perspective if there was a total freeze, let's say, from the federal government on specific grants. Let's say the TRIO program is one that comes to mind frequently in a lot of conversations. How much cash do we have to support that program if it's critical, mission critical for the university? And that's something that we have to test, and we're evaluating what is that elasticity of our cash to be able to maintain a program that has had so much success for our students and at Western University. And that's a test that most universities are running right now, which is, okay, if you pull this level of funding, what's our cash flow and how long can we support any of these programs? For us, it's minimal. We would not be able to support most of these programs for more than 6 months.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Incredibly challenging and very challenging work. And I want to acknowledge I think the word that was used was the trauma that some of this work causes, and it is for everyone involved. So thank you for your ongoing efforts. Okay, so on that note, Vice President Fuchs will roll into you.
Great. Hard to, I'm going to try to lift this group up a little bit, maybe. But I do want to acknowledge the work that's being done by the provost, particularly around efforts with our VPFA to figure out these grants and how we can draw down cash where it's possible from the federal government to have that available to us. So I know a lot of scrambling is probably not the right word, but that happened when executive orders were signed about grants to see what was possible. So I do appreciate that effort. I also want to acknowledge the discussion around uncertainty in difficult budget times, and appreciate that the president and the provost both acknowledge that this goes beyond faculty. And it's hard for me to say this, but I will say that it has started to become routine for our staff to feel these feelings because as budget challenges have happened, we have had to manage those through budget reductions. And for me, it's been over the last decade of lower enrollment. Our budgets have been tapped to make reductions, and so it's not. No one is unharmed or unscathed in this, and there is trauma. And for some folks, this trauma extends beyond just this cycle or a couple of budget cycles ago. It's been ongoing. And we try to manage that, through thoughtful discussions around budget reductions in a way that still maintains as much of a morale as we can and to keep our staff whole as much as we can. But we're running out of options. once you reduce the budget down through services and supplies, you're left with just your staff to figure out how do you do this with fewer people. Anyway, I know I said I was going to lift this group up, and I'm still going to do that, but I wanted to make those comments. So one of the things that I think has been helpful for our team is the American Council on Education has been hosting, seems like every other week, ongoing webinars about how to respond to decisions that are being made at the federal level. And they have consistently have had 3 people on these webinars who have law backgrounds, who are able to kind of talk, speak our language as student affairs professionals and talk about, what does this mean? How do we make sense of it? What can we expect? And so it's been, I think, helpful. Not necessarily always helpful, but at least helpful for us to understand and sort of navigate these uncharted waters. And I think many folks in student affairs have participated in those webinars just to get a kind of a basis of understanding of what's happening. So I think that's been good. I want to talk about, I'm just going to hit some highlights from my report because I know you've probably read the report, but want to talk about some really positive things that have happened. And I'll start with financial aid because, as you know, the last 2 or 3 years, our financial aid office has been understaffed because we've not been able to fill our positions. We have a full complement of staff members, all positions filled, which is great news. And that is reflected in our awarding process. And this is like the best news of all. I'm so happy to share it. The cadence of financial aid awarding is that we get our federal information first. So early March, we received information about the federal loan process and what our students were eligible for. So we had offers available for our students, so they knew what they were getting from a federal standpoint and from the Pell standpoint. What we were waiting on was the Oregon Opportunity Grant and the completion of our scholarship review. So instead of waiting for all of that, a group of us came together and talked about the idea of sending a postcard to students early in March. And I'm talking about new students right now, because our current students, they've got it down. They know where to check for their financial aid on the portal, but our new students don't, and their families don't. And so the best way to do that was to notify them via a postcard that their package is being built and we have information on their portal, and this is how you get to your portal. That was huge. We had really positive feedback about that. We had some students confirm their enrollment as a result of that maybe, I mean, we don't know for sure, but maybe enrollment confirmation may not have happened as early on for them because they still didn't know what their package was. And then, and this is the best news, this is what I want to share. Financial aid received the information for the Oregon Opportunity Grants, and they were able to build packages for all of our new students, transfer and incoming first-year students, and mail out those packages last Friday. And I'm telling you right now, this is at least a month ahead of where we were last year. It's huge. And kudos to financial aid, to admissions for their work, to Paige Jackson for her assistance with this process. I mean, I think we were one of the earlier ones, and I couldn't say that the last 2 or 3 years in terms of notifying students. So I want to put that shout out there because folks worked really hard to make this happen. And it is a key part of students matriculating to the university because they have their package early, they can make their decision early as opposed to waiting for us. I want to share that. And those words aren't going to be as clear in my report as I'm telling you. And the emotion behind my words right now is because I'm just really proud of the effort that financial aid and others have made to make this happen.
Can you just pause, Tina, because but been
Yeah.
waiting. Can we comment right now, Leah, that it's just like
Yes,
thinking
by all
about
means.
last year and the report after report of the mess and the mess and the mess. You know what? Thank you so much for to the team and to the systems and to all that went before. It's really really great news.
Yeah,
I
thank you. I
agree.
appreciate that.
Absolutely incredible, and thank you. That's a ton of work. So, and it means a lot to students to be able, especially in this uncertain time, to have that information.
Well, and I know, thank you so much, both of you. And I hope the way this webinar is set up, we don't know who's listening. We don't know if our financial aid team is on this, but I hope they're hearing this and hear your words. It's been a haul, as you know, and we're just grateful to their efforts and everyone else. There are so many others who participated in this process and helped us, and I'm just grateful. And I think it will make a difference come fall term. Also, hit a few other highlights just to let you know. Our MSSP program is showing significant persistent rates for the first-time freshmen and first-time transfers who have been pretty involved in their program, over 95% persistence from fall to winter. And our folks who are involved in on-track and the diversity scholars are also showing high persistence. Destination Western program, another strong program that supports our students, showed 97% retention for new students from fall to I want to say fall to winter. I don't know if we have our spring numbers yet, so this is a fall to winter number, but that's pretty strong and solid. And we don't expect that to decline a whole lot from winter to spring. And then another, I think, point of pride for us is our TRIO Upward Bound program went through their annual performance report and showed significant results for their performance objectives for 23-24 academic year, which included GPA, retention, and graduation rates. And those numbers are dialed down in my report. You can look at specifically what their objective was and how they exceeded that objective. So those are some really good examples of how we've supported our students, those that are high school students through the Upward Bound program, the TRIO program, as the provost mentioned, and then, of course, students who are here at Western have started their college journey with us. Couple of other things I'll highlight from my report are student health and counseling. And you notice that our reports look a little bit different than they have in the past. We're really aligning those to the university goals, so you can see how they're tied to the university goals. And that was a great exercise for our team to see what they're doing and how it impacts the overall goals of the institution. And shout out to the student affairs directors, because they're the folks who helped me build this report. This is not me, this is them giving me the info that I need to make this happen. So some other cool stuff that's going on. Abby's House continues their work around Sexual Assault Awareness Month, which is this month. They've got a lot of programs happening. Our Veterans Resource Center, which you probably remember got moved as a result of a little flood incident. They moved back winter term and saw a record number of walk-ins for winter quarter and increased services for the students that they serve. So I think coming back to the University Center was huge for them because it really helped engage students because they could find them. The space that they got moved to was sort of a rabbit trail that you had to find. But if anybody's going to find a space like that, you know, the Veterans Resource Center is going to make that happen so they can find it. Anyway, they're back in their regular space. We had a really wonderful family weekend. New student and family programs took over family weekend and planned an exceptional program over the first weekend of March. Had 194 participants, 60 students and their families. Yeah, I think that's probably a good overview of what's happening in student affairs. I'm glad to take questions and respond to any thoughts or ideas you have for me.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay. None for us. Thank you so much. That was wonderful. And then Executive Director Lydham, I think we have you up next.
Hi, thank you. Sorry for having my camera off. I'm on the road, traveling to Seattle for our conference meetings. So just a few updates. You have my report there. I do want to elaborate a little bit under institutional sustainability about our ROI report that we've been working on with KB and Camerie. It's been very, very interesting to, you know, really dive into some of that information as far as credits that our student athletes are taking and whether they're WOU or in-state, you know, just all of the things. And so I'm really excited to be able to share that information shortly with the rest of the admin and the trustees. It is just really interesting to see some of the ROI results coming out of athletics. And I think it kind of helps, at least in my opinion, helps show what we're bringing to the university, just, you know, doing athletics just because of our recruitment efforts to the university. So just wanted to point that out, that we will be getting more information on that shortly. Looking at student success, you know, I was really wondering what our GPAs would look like after we did the change in the grading systems with eliminating D minuses and Fs. And I do think that our GPAs, you can see there in our report, have risen a little bit. Our women are at 3.58 and our men are at a 3.19. But what I think is interesting is that the honor roll numbers are staying the same or slightly higher. And what that means is that, you know, student athletes are not necessarily getting a lot of the no grade, you know, for getting a D or F, because if you get one of those no grade grades, you aren't allowed to be on the honor roll. So I think that shows that while, you know, it's helping our students be successful and helping not you know, getting kind of free grades or something. And I think that was one of the things that at least on the athletic side, our conference office was a little concerned about, that, you know, we'd be at an advantage for not getting D's and F's. And I think that, you know, the grades that students have received has shown that that's not the case. So pretty excited about that.
That's great. You're cutting out just a little bit, just FYI, but I think we got the gist of what you said. So feel free to keep going.
It's raining really hard, so I don't know if that affects service, but it's really stormy out here. I just wanted to one shout out to a partnership on campus. Tina mentioned our Abby's House is hosting Sexual Assault Awareness Month. And this Friday, we're partnering with Abby's House to have a teal out at a ball game. And so it's for our team and for all the Abby's House staff, and we're having some educational things at the game, and if you can celebrate sexual assault awareness, Abby's house staff knows how to help put on an event that really will help students come out to the games, and then also be able to have an educational piece at the same time. So we're really looking forward to that. I think lastly, I'll just finish up with a shout out to our women's soccer, volleyball, and men's tracks teams who spent time this winter at the elementary school and middle school in Monmouth and Independence, just connecting with students there. And it's just part of our, trying to be in the community and give back to our community, but also just have our students really engage with younger students, because I think that really helps them see that they can go to college, they can be a college athlete. And then lastly, in a couple weeks, we'll be participating in the Monmouth tree planting. We've become kind of known around the community for being able to plant trees. So sports and tree planting is what we can do. And then lastly, I just want to again thank you all, and also Tina and Jose for the support, trying to help with the reductions of funds. I know, like everyone said, it's very tricky, and I think oftentimes people are saying things like, why are we paying for athletics when we might be cutting academic programs? And I think it's just really important to remember that our student athletes are students first, and that they come here to get a degree, but they wouldn't probably be here if it weren't for an athletic coach recruiting them to this university. They would go to another university where they can participate in sport and get a degree. So I do want to continue to lift that up, because I think sometimes we think that our student athletes are here just doing athletics as an activity. And we do really need to remember that it is a significant recruiting tool on our campus. So that's all I have. I hope it wasn't too garbly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And I hope you have a wonderful trip and stay safe out in all the rain, all the nasty weather. Okay. I think we are headed into the committee charter review. Evan, were you going to tee this up? It's just one other trustee and I, so this perhaps should be quick.
Yep. I will tee it up, but I just want to make sure folks know that with only 2 trustees, we cannot vote on anything, but we can add comments and bring it into the conversation. Excuse me. Bring it into the conversation for next meeting. So per our charter, it's important for us to review our charter on a fairly regular basis. I think especially now that we're adding athletics into this committee, it's important for us to consider just reviewing the charter, making sure it's consistent with what your oversight and responsibilities are as fiduciaries, Chair. And so, as you can see, Luann and I have already started updating it with our new name. But I think it's important to just walk through real quick your responsibilities. So as fiduciaries, and members of this oversight committee, you're responsible for the approval of our academic curriculum. And remember, Battleship Helicopter, you're not responsible for developing the curriculum. That's the provost and his team's job. But you're responsible for doing the due diligence to look into it, making sure that they've considered everything and to give that approval so that they can go to HEC and add that curriculum. Education policy. Again, the provost is our chief education officer. Him and his team are the ones who develop these policies, but it is your responsibility to review and recommend actions and do that due diligence. Co-curricular strategies. Again, that's a reviewing and recommendation role. Important to know that the provost and his team are responsible for these on the academic side, and Tina and the vice president of student affairs and her team on the student affairs side. But ultimately, those strategies come to you. One that I don't think I think when I was reviewing this, I was like, oh, we need to bring this in more, is that student health and safety. So periodically we have conversations about the Student Health Center and some of the challenges that students face on our campus, accessing mental health services, for example. But that's, not a consistent thing that we bring to you all. So maybe that's something we need to, think about, how to be more intentional about making sure that you're updated in those conversations. But that is currently so far part of your jurisdiction. And then policies governing student conduct and student organizations. And I'll defer to Vice President Fuchs about this, because we are having some conversations around what this does and does not mean. So Tina, if you want to talk about this a little bit.
Well, in breaking news, Evan, I found the document that we worked on a couple of years ago with all of the edits, which may help inform us of where we were and how we got to this point. Because many of these also spoke to not just I think reviewing and recommending, but there was also advising in many of the in much of the language. And I know that others who are present were a part of these discussions, so this might be familiar to you, but I should say, just to our two trustees who are part of this conversation. But in terms of student conduct, I remember we had a fairly robust discussion the last time we reviewed this about significant changes to a code of student responsibility being discussed, but not necessarily approved by, so to speak, this group. But I think highlighted enough that it could go to the Board of Trustees for discussion or awareness or whatever. But we've never, when Evan and I talked about this, we had talked about us never bringing the code to the board for approval of changes. So I think trying to understand what this charter means in its relationship to the day-to-day work that we do in our areas, and then how that gets communicated to the Board of Trustees, I think is just a really important thing to understand as we take this forward. And maybe more clarification in the charter would be helpful. Certainly not just with student policies, but with other matters within the charter as well.
And really quick, Vice President Fuchs, who's the one who develops the student conduct code of conduct? What group?
Yeah, great question. Yeah, so it starts out at the Office of Student Conduct in the Dean of Students office, and they seek input from the campus community, and all input is received, and then the Student Conduct Office, the Dean of Students, and the Student Conduct Committee is involved in looking at all of the recommended changes. And some changes are adopted, some are not, and then it's sent out for final review to governing organizations, I guess is the best way to say it. And I may be misspeaking, but as the Dean of Students for 20 years, this is what we did. So the process may be a little bit different now, but my understanding is it goes out to Faculty Senate, Student Senate, and Staff Senate for review. Once approved, or not really approved, but they've had their chance to hear all the changes, then it comes to me for my review, and then is signed off by the president. So it's quite a process. It generally happens in the fall, so that changes are made by the next fall, and updates are made. We have to review the code at a minimum every 5 years, but could be reviewed more often.
Thank you.
Mhm.
So I wonder if there's adjustments that need to be made in this. It sounds like there's some adjustments that need to be made in this section.
Yeah. So maybe that's just something for us to think about, and maybe folks can, in between meetings, reflect on that. I mean, from my perspective, um, especially with like the context of what's going on in the climate in our nation, like the codes of conduct have been really scrutinized, right?
Mhm.
And so it seems to me that the board, at least just getting an understanding, so maybe what it is a presentation or a review of what the process was and what the changes are made as like embedded in the vice president of student affairs report. You know, could be enough. We could call it out in like a presentation. We could say like periodically, once a year or once every 2 years or whatever, we have an update from student affairs around the code of conduct so that the board has some oversight around people are thinking about it, people are it's being thought about, it's being considered, there's discussions, and we're going through that process because I understand it's a huge process. But it seems like there should be some review process. But I totally get that it makes sense that it's a student-owned and conduct professionals owned process because this is about students. This is basically what governs students' conduct in our university. So this is how people can be punished and removed from our institution. So it's a real serious stuff, right? So it makes sense that the professionals are the ones working on it, but that the board has some responsibility to review and reflect on it.
Yeah, I think, oh, go ahead.
No, I think it's important to have these conversations, and might even suggest we need to have them with more, like we're gonna, repeat it with the other members of the committee since there's only the two of us here today. So just making that note that we'll need to catch everybody up and repeat.
Yeah, I think that's a great note, and maybe we can note that for the next meeting, Secretary Source. And I do wonder if specific to the verbiage on here, Secretary Source and Vice President Fuchs, if there's some language that you might suggest to kind of clarify this a little bit, that then the committee could review and respond to or look at during our next meeting. I like your idea, Secretary Source, about having a routine cadence for a presentation or an understanding of where we are as a university. And that would provide some high level oversight and understanding. But at the same time, it seems to be a very operationally complex scenario, and it's in the appropriate hands of the president and staff to address and approve.
Yeah. Vice President Fuchs, does that work for you for us to have a conversation, maybe come up with some recommended language?
Yeah, yeah, yes, I think so. And I think it'd be helpful for us to maybe look back at previous conversations that we've had with this committee about these topics, to give us a better sense of where we want to go from here. Because I also don't want to say, no, committee, you can't be involved in student conduct policy making decisions. I do not want to say that, because there may be some major policy actions that we obviously will want to inform you about, and hear what you have to say about it. But it's also, I think, sometimes a fluid process, because some of the policies that we have in the Code of Student Responsibility are impacted by whatever decisions are made at the federal level. For example, one perfect example is our policy on sexual misconduct, particularly in terms of how we manage sexual misconduct cases. And sometimes federal law changes how we approach, not that sexual misconduct is okay, because that has never been a statement that I've heard at the federal level, but in terms of how we manage student conduct cases, it would be helpful for the board to understand the differences when changes in guidance at the federal level tell us how we're supposed to manage certain things. So it's not necessarily even a policy change, although some interpretation might change in the policy, but overall it's more about process and how we manage cases. So it actually, as we're talking about this, just in general, it may be helpful for this committee to learn a little bit about who student conduct is, what they do, how they manage different types of cases. Because it's student behavior is what student conduct is about. And that's their job, is to address it on campus. So I think, kind of a sidebar, that Evan and I could talk a little bit more about this and about how we want to bring forward any changes to the charter related to this particular topic.
Yeah, I would just add that it's to me, it seems critically important to also protect the process from the board in a way that it's like, the board are governor appointees, right? That could change at any moment and any time, that process and the perspective. And so it could politicize certain things, right? And so keeping it within the professionals protects that process and it honors the role that students and professionals play in that process when we're talking about governing how people are supposed to conduct themselves on our campus. So oversight, of course, but like allowing the chair of a committee to be like injecting certain policies into code of conduct is probably not appropriate.
Agreed,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, that sounds great. Thank you.
And then so moving forward, membership and quorum. So all of our committees have 5 members. And the athletic director is being added. So talk about that. We talk about quorum, which is 3. How we need to conduct ourselves consistent with the board statement on conduct of public meetings. Agenda, minutes and reports. And then I will update this. I missed this. Adding athletic director to staff designee as well. But yeah, that's our charter. So I can get this updated and work with VP Fuchs to make sure that part is updated. And I will talk to Provost Cole to make sure that all the academic stuff is consistent, but it seems pretty straightforward.
That sounds good. I wonder, Secretary Source, do
Mhm.
we have enough about athletics captured in here? Or should we have a section or a call out on that?
Well, when I was looking at that, I kind of struggled with what are the oversights, and maybe this is a larger conversation that I need to connect with athletic director Lidham about. But what are the conversations that the board should require board approval? Maybe it's a new sport, maybe it's things like that, changing athletic conferences, those kind of conversations. But I'm kind of just spitballing here and don't really have enough information um to add anything right this second.
Yeah, I think that's important to have that conversation, especially if we've changed everything to add that to our name and everything, even if it doesn't say much about what, I think it's important to have it be a standalone section, but no rush, I think. Should be thoughtful about it.
Yeah.
I also, Chair Mitchell, if I may add one more thing, that this brings up for me related. So last week at the EGTC meeting, we made a good decision to kind of have some agenda items always on the agenda, even if it says no business, right? And as I refresh the charter, I wonder if that's a nice idea, an idea for this committee to consider. So we can just constantly be reconnected to our role, right? So like academic curriculum, there are no new degrees, certificates, or minor programs this quarter, and just to kind of be able to identify what it is that's which of these areas we're focused on. Otherwise, the charter goes out of my mind, and it'd just be nice to tie that to it too. But let's save that and see if that's a. Let's just sit on that idea. I'm getting tired.
I think that's a great idea. I mean, we could even try it in our next agenda. So perhaps Secretary Source would note that for us, and that would align us nicely into the charter work.
Yeah, I could do that. Thank you.
And Secretary Source, then could you connect with Executive Director Lidham to see if she has some suggested language that might be drafted for the charter and the committee to review in the areas of where the board might be helpful?
No problem.
Great, thank you.
Yeah. So Chair,
So,
I think, go ahead, sorry.
oh, well, go right ahead.
I was gonna say, I think that concludes that agenda item.
I think that does. So thank you very much, and we'll pick it up next time. I would imagine that you're sending another communication to our committee to review as we move along on this charter.
Yep.
Thank you so much. And then I don't want to put my one committee member on the hot seat here, but I will not be here for the next actually 2 board meetings and unable to call in. So I have had in our planning committee a conversation about, is there someone who could fill in for me? And either it would be Secretary Source or whoever he has as a designee or another committee member. So I would love it if you would consider that, my fellow colleague, in filling in on giving the report for the board meeting. And please let me know if you're comfortable with that or if Secretary Source should help.
Giving the report in April.
Yes.
I thought you meant not being at the committee meeting, but you mean yeah.
I mean the board meeting.
Yes. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do that with your assistance, Evan.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you.
So what we do, just so you know, Vice Chair Session, is our 3 staff members, staff designees will put together a couple bullet points for you.
Okay.
You can just kind of give the highlights.
Yes, sign me up.
They keep you well prepared, as always. What a great team. Thank you so much. And I think we're at the end of our agenda then. So excellent work, everyone. Thank you so much for the great preparation and participation. I really appreciate your time. And our meeting will adjourn at 2:45.
Thanks,
All right.
everybody.
Take care.
Thank
Bye.
you all.